Hi there, I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us for this special presentation of CBC Saskatchewan News. A new year is often a time of reflection, and the media gets the chance to sit down for lengthy conversations with politicians to reflect on the year that was and what's to come. Alexander Kwan sat down with Premier Scott Moe to talk regrets, the relationship with the federal government, and healthcare.
So, Premier, it's been a year full of changes for you. A lot of changes in terms of trade policy, in terms of your federal counterpart. I want to ask you, what's your highlight from this year?
This past year, I mean, everything's changed. And if it changed in a way you didn't like, wait till tomorrow, and it might change probably in another way that you don't like either. And so, things are changing internationally, nationally, and have been changing within the province as well. I think actually, one of the highlights for me personally this year, or professionally, I guess you'd say, is actually just the foundation that I see starting to come together and this would be unexpected for your listeners, but the foundation that I see coming together in healthcare. With the increasing number of people that are starting to choose healthcare and choose Saskatchewan as their home and healthcare as their career. And there's some great and rewarding things, achievements that can happen in that career. But in order for us to, be able to attract people to deliver healthcare services in the Saskatchewan community, it needs to be an attractive offer. That's larger than any financial offer. It's the offer of what Saskatchewan and the Saskatchewan community and what the Saskatchewan Health Authority can offer. But I'm starting to see the numbers, numbers increase, whether it's physicians, nurses, whatever that might be. And that isn't true across Canada. That isn't true across Canada. And so that isn't showing us, I think, the results that we expect as families that live here yet today. However, it's providing the foundation for what we're going to be able to achieve in the future as we start to look at how we deliver health care services in a much more innovative way. And so the thing that I think is going to prove to be one of the larger steps forward this past year actually isn't really noticed by anyone in the province yet. However, it's our hope that we will be able to in the not too distant future.
Do you have any regrets? Anything that you maybe wish you could take back or do differently?
Yeah, I have many. I'm human, right? And I make mistakes every day. But I've publicly said this as well. But in one decision that I made, and just a function of being busy, and which is not an excuse, but was I should have been in Denair Beach earlier. We've made some decisions along the way to, support evacuees, some financial decisions like providing funding to the Red Cross to further support individuals and families through that challenging time. Decisions since then to help clean up, rebuild, and I think we have more decisions to make in fire smarting that community. But I should have been there. I should have been there to listen and to learn, and I made a mistake.
Why weren't you there? Why did it, I guess, take you so long to get there?
As we were, finding our way through the decisions that were there, Minister MacLeod and the SBSA, but others were in contact with the community. Their needs were well raised at the cabinet table. We were making those decisions. We had, a number of other things to go, going on. As we say, it doesn't seem that hard to stay busy in this day and age. And I should have freed up my schedule and found my way there sooner. And I didn't, and I regret that, and I apologized for it. But at the time as well, the government, and I stand by this, was making decisions that were supporting the community with the conversations that Minister MacLeod was having. But I should have been there to look people in the eye and to listen to the stories and to tell them that the government is not only here to support the community and the families today, but into the future.
How do you balance having to be the person that looks them in someone in the eye, and then maybe the larger role of being the leader of the government?
Therein lies the challenge. It's a balance of time, and I should have made time to go to Denair Beach, and I had a number of other things that I was making time for, all related to the broader leadership and opportunities on behalf of the people that we represent. But therein lies in that very decision a lapse in judgment of mine, a personal lapse in judgment of mine, of which I apologize for. However, when you look at the other side of what's going on globally and internationally and in our nation and even in our province, there are a lot of things that require the government's attention and often require my attention as well.
Speaking on the national front, one of the changes this year was Prime Minister Mark Carney. You've obviously said your relationship with the federal government, with Ottawa, is better than ever. Why do you think that is?
Better than ever might be a reach, but it's certainly better than it has been. Better than ever since I've been premier, for that matter. And hey, listen, new guy, new approach. He collaborates as opposed to dictates on, what policies are moving forward. He listens. And we may not agree, but at least our voice is being heard through the policy development that it appears, at least, through the policy development that the federal government is making. That's appreciated. He's increasing Canada's credibility, and he's committed to increasing Canada's credibility in the international trade, the trade space. We've always been a supporter and a proponent of that, and we will help do that as well. But here's one of the larger changes as well, is in addition to it being a different person. Prime Minister Carney versus former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Previously in Saskatchewan, we had Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making unconsulted policy decisions that were impacting how we create wealth in industries that are creating wealth and jobs in Saskatchewan communities. Today, we have international leaders that are very much, raising and changing trade relations, talking about tariffs and market access, and we need to come together as provincial leaders and our federal prime minister in defending our Canadian economy that is, sputtering at times right now, in particular in certain industries. And so, the environment has changed. Our relationship with international partners, our relationship certainly with the new prime minister versus the old prime minister has changed to some degree. And that's a welcome step, I think, and a welcome change from our perspective.
How do you get along personally with Mr. Carney? You obviously have some agreements on policy, but do you get along with him on a personal level?
Yeah, I think fine. I've always said, even with the previous fella, that the personal relationship, it may help or hinder to some degree, but we're all here to get a job done and to represent our constituents and to come together as Canadians where we can as well. And that seems to be more of an opportunity today than it was even a few years ago under the previous Prime Minister. So, as I say, a step in the right direction, and I think it's precipitated a significant tone difference from myself and the government of Saskatchewan. And we're hopeful. If Prime Minister Carney is successful with a trade deal with the United States, with China, with India, removing tariffs on most of the products that come out of our province and our nation for that matter, he'd be successful, and I think arguably we'd be successful in Saskatchewan as well, and we want that.
As a sub-national leader, how do you deal with the effects of a national leader like Donald Trump, whose policies can directly affect you, but you don't really have an avenue to deal with them necessarily? How do you, as the Premier of Saskatchewan, approach dealing with Donald Trump?
Well, herein lies the role of a subnational government, is to provide every opportunity for success between your nation and that nation. So in the case of the United States of America and President Trump, we need to make sure that any conversations that we have, and we've had many recently, are leading our nation of Canada closer to the negotiating table, which we aren't at the moment, or closer actually to a deal in any way that we can. And so that is the role of a subnational government. How a subnational government can be somewhat helpful in that role is if you have contacts within that said country's administration. We went through a number of years where the international credibility of Canada was not a priority for the Prime Minister of this nation. Today we have a Prime Minister that is making that international credibility and the trade relations that we have a priority. We welcome that change, and we're going to support that change by being one of the first premiers in Canada to be on the ground in China in over 6 years, and bringing with us the parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister to start to bring those negotiations to light and to fruition. Same in India, and trying to use the contacts that we have in the United States of America in the same way. We need a successful agreement between Canada and the U.S., Canada, China, Canada, India, as well as many others, in order for Saskatchewan to be successful. And so we're busy supporting the federal government in getting to those negotiating tables and getting ultimately to a space where we have free, open, and tariff-free trade.
How do you ensure your voice and Saskatchewan's voice is heard? You obviously have your priorities, you have your constituents that you're trying to voice policy for, but obviously there are other premiers whose policies conflict with that. So how do you ensure that when you go to the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, that your complaints, your issues are taken seriously?
Yeah, and I would say that this, any trade negotiation, we're seeing some of the sector by sector challenges, for example, with the United States of America, whether it be steel, whether it be autos, whether, and then indirect canola and other conversations that come from that. We shouldn't be, as Canadians, prepared to trade one sector off for another. We need to be prepared to go to the table and to negotiate the best trade agreement ultimately that we can, understanding that there's different areas of Canada that produce different, different items. And those are in different levels of need and want, whether they're need or a want by countries around the world. And some have other markets, some certainly do not. And so it's much more complex than having your voice heard. I think we all will use our voice as provincial premiers.
Thanks for staying with us. Now here's part of Alexander Kwan's conversation with Carla Beck and how the NDP spent their first year post-election.
I'll start by asking you, what's your highlight of the year?
There have been a lot of things that have happened this year, a lot of things that stand out, but maybe overall the number one thing has been watching this team, the official opposition, our MLAs, really connect with people across this province and really come into their own in terms of both holding the government to account, but also starting to bring forward ideas on the things that matter most to people in this province, bringing forward legislation on making our hospitals safer, a fair wages bill that we've seen in the legislature around the wildfires and on rent control. Watching this team take on the work and how hard they're working and how clearly they're working on behalf of the people of this province has maybe been overall the most gratifying thing about the last year.
It's a much larger caucus for you now. You have brought on obviously a lot of people who maybe don't have political experience before this. Has it been a challenge to kind of get people into the flow of what it is to be a politician in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, it's a great question. After the election, we doubled our seats and, came within 1,600 votes of winning government. And more than half of our MLAs coming into the legislature a year ago, just over a year ago, were brand new. So we approach that as both being an incredible opportunity, of course, with more numbers, but also a bit of a risk if we didn't make sure that we all got off on the right start. So we put a lot of focus on making sure that people had what they needed to be successful in this role. And this has been a team that has just continued to outpace expectations at every turn. And I'm obviously biased as the leader, but I've heard that from people right across this province. They see how hard this team is working. They see how sharp they are, how well they know their files, how many ideas they're bringing forward, even just 1 year past an election. And people are telling me this looks like a government in waiting, and I tend to agree with them. It's a great team.
Your results in the election was obviously something that the NDP hasn't experienced in a while. It was a major improvement from previous elections. Mm-hmm. How do you take that next step and form government? Obviously, that's a goal for you. So what do you think is the path towards doing that?
Yeah, I remember this so clearly on election night, promising people in that room that night that we weren't going to stop, that we understood that there was so much change that needed to happen in this province. So many people that were counting on it, people looking for a doctor, people wanting to make sure that their kids have supports in schools who are struggling with the cost of living, that we weren't going to stop, not miss a beat, not miss a day, and continue to do that work, which is really what we've done. A lot of times people are asking, why does it seem like you are in election mode still, and we're just a year past an election? It's because we believe in this province. We believe that people in this province deserve so much better than what they're getting right now after 18 years of the Sask Party. And we understand that we have a lot of ground to cover, a lot of trust to build in some areas, and a lot of work to do. We're going to continue because we do believe that there's an incredible amount of opportunity out there, but opportunity that is not being realized because we have a government that frankly has quit trying and seems to be out of ideas. We've got less than 3 years to show people right across this province that better is possible, and this is the team to deliver better for people in this province.
The Saskatchewan NDP, they did well in the cities, and especially Regina, Saskatoon, they did well in the north, but a lot of the focus for the Saskatchewan party at their convention was how do we win back the cities? I guess for the NDP, I guess the question is how do you win rural Saskatchewan? How do you convince them to support the NDP? Yeah. What's the path towards that? Yeah,
so in the last election, certainly, if you look at a map of the province, we hold the cities and the northern half of the province. What that map doesn't show is that we saw incredible gains in communities like Yorkton, where we saw a 32% swing in the vote towards us. We saw gains in almost every constituency outside of the cities in the last election. How we did that, a lot of hard work, meeting people where they're at, both literally going out to them, not waiting for people to come to Regina to talk to us, and figuratively. And maybe this is the most important thing. We are talking about the issues that are most important to Saskatchewan people. We understand them when they tell us that they're struggling like they never have before when it comes to paying their bills, the cost of living. More people in this province than any other province. We understand the healthcare workers and those who are seeking healthcare in the province, that this system is broken, and we have a government that instead of trying to fix it is running our provincial health authority like it's an arm of the Premier's office. That can't stand in the birthplace of Medicare. We can do better than this. So connecting with people, hard work, and being dogged in bringing people's voices forward, both in this legislature, but telling those stories. And the more we do that, the more we hear from other people that, I'm ready for change, and I like what you guys are doing.
Why do you think the appeal of the NDP has kind of shifted, even in the rural areas that you were mentioning, those constituencies that have seen a swing towards the NDP, even if the NDP didn't pick up that seat? Why do you think there is that appeal, that shift towards your party?
Mm-hmm. One of the things, and I just heard this recently from someone, you guys keep showing up. And, I've been voting a different way for a number of years, but I feel like the current government, after 18 years, has stopped listening to us. And, I wasn't sure when I first saw you show up, or your MLAs show up in my community, but you kept showing up, and you kept talking about the things that are important to people here, and you kept bringing our voices forward. And, that is something that I hear in that community, but I hear in communities right across this province. A lot of politics. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot that's complicated, but some things aren't. Talk about the things that are important to people, listen to them, and bring forward solutions to the things that matter most to them. This is what our team has been focused on. That's what I've been focused on as the leader. And I think there are a lot of people who are saying, I almost voted your way last time. This time I'm going to vote for change, for a better future for this province in the next election. And we're going to continue to build that trust and put forward our ideas, because I do believe that there's an incredible amount of opportunity out there. We've got the hardest working people that I've seen across this country, people who are solution focused, who care about their neighbors. We have a history of innovating and solving problems in this province. Right now, unfortunately, we have a government that would rather talk about things or wave around their so-called plans instead of digging in and fixing the issues. That's what we're focused on, and I think people are seeing that, and they're trusting that this is the team to deliver the change they want to see.
Stay with us. After the break, we sit down with Roughriders President and CEO Craig Reynolds.
That was a moment you sort of see on TV and hadn't had the opportunity to do, and it was special. It really was special. Like, to have my kids there, and I couldn't find them at first, so when I finally found them, when I was able to sort of hug them and sort of just say we did it.
Welcome back. It was a big year for the green and white. The CFL announced at the end of October that Saskatchewan will host the Grey Cup in 2027. And just a few weeks later, the Riders won the 112th Grey Cup. Our Adam Hunter caught up with the team's president to hear about the whirlwind season.
Yeah, that was a moment you sort of see on TV and hadn't had the opportunity to do, and it was special. It really was special. Like to have my kids there, and I couldn't find them at first, so when I finally found them, I was able to sort of hug them and sort of just say we did it, right? We did it, and so you see that play out, with Jeremy O'Day with his family, with Corey Mace with his family, so many our players with their families, seeing Trevor Harris do that with his kids. It's just a very, very special moment I'll remember the rest of my life.
What was it like for you to be with this organization for such a long time and be in this role but not have that success until now?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be with the club for 2013, and obviously, that's a day that Rider fans will remember forever, winning on home turf. That was very special. But to be in the CEO role and not have had that opportunity and have been so close, like we played in 4 of the last 6 West finals and just could not get over the hump and actually get into that game. So to be able to get into the game and then be successful in the game, it was just an incredible moment. But again, I thought so much about people in our organization who hadn't even had an opportunity to win a Grey Cup. I was, like I said, fortunate enough to be part of the 2013 team, so I got to experience that. So just seeing the joy in so many people's eyes, either on the field or afterwards at the party, just sort of understanding that, like I said, we did it and we're Grey Cup champions. I was just so happy for so many people.
Do you think that, the fact that you had so many people in the organization and players who've never been there, never won, do you think that spilled out into the celebrations in the days after, and it continues? My social media, almost every day someone's got the Grey Cup around the community.
Yeah, no, certainly, it was very celebratory, and I didn't know what to expect with the parade and the ledge, but just the sheer number of our fans that were there, it just blew me away. It really did. Like I was talking to some of the players before, and they were asking me what's it going to be like, and I said, we'll have lots of fans there, but it even exceeded what I thought. And the team works so hard the whole off season, and then obviously during the season. So when you're able to accomplish that goal, just so happy and proud to get to see them sort of celebrate the way they did.
And if you want to hear the full conversations, you can visit the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, and you can always find news from across the province there or on our website at cbc.ca/sask. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.